Shall we talk point of view? Okay, let's get to it. The point of view is the lens through which your story is told. So the eyes your reader experiences your world through. And the choice you make shapes everything. It shapes the tone, the tension, the emotion, the pace. Okay, so here I'm basically talking rubbish. So I'm just going to mute this bit out and move on to the next bit. Let's have a look what you can do. First person. That's told through I. Um, it's an intimate, emotional way of telling the story. It's great for getting inside the character's head. You often see first person narrative in young adult romance or psychological thrillers. And it can really help you connect with that main character. You feel for them, you experience everything through them. You get really emotionally attached to the character using first person narrative. Pitfalls, it can be a little limiting. You only show what that one character sees. It makes it quite a challenge for the author to write in first person narrative. Sometimes it's a little easier to go with third person or multiple viewpoints. So let's have a look at third person narrative. This is obviously where we say he or she or they, but it still sticks closely to one character's internal thoughts, one at a time. Now, the pitfalls of this, obviously, is if you're going multiple characters, which is quite typical in the fantasy genre, you can head hop from one head and then straight into the other. That can become really confusing for your readers. So take great care that not to do that mid-paragraph or mid-scene. Chapter by chapter makes a far more sensible way to do third person, multiple perspectives. And it really helps the author to tell that stories from multiple viewpoints, getting multiple angles, and so you don't just know what's happening to that one person, but you also know what's happening on the other side of the world. Game of Thrones, for instance, uses multiple point of views to tell its story. Too many, arguably. Obviously, George R.R. Martin does this really well. I would be really careful as a new author trying to go in there with 18 plus points of views. It can become confusing for your readers. It can also stop your readers emotionally connecting with those characters. Maybe stick to 3 to 5 points of views if you've got quite a long story to tell. Okay, let's move on to the omniscient point of view. This is really where you take a godlike overview of everything. You're the all-knowing narrator. You can see in everybody's head at multiple times. Now, it can become a little confusing as well. The main pitfall with this one is that it can feel a little detached. You don't get that emotional involvement you do when you're looking from one character's point of view. So your readers may struggle to connect with your main character emotionally, and done badly, omniscient point of view can really come across as lazy storytelling. Okay, the last one is second person narrative. Now, this is really unusual. This is where you speak using the second person, so you say you are walking down the street, you see a hedgehog on the ground. Really unusual, quite powerful when it's done well. If it's done wrong, it can feel quite intrusive. You can be reading it thinking, well, no, I'm not doing that. So it takes a bit of an expert to write in this one. It's also quite hard to maintain as an author, but if you get it right, it can be really powerful. Main pitfall is it's tricky to sustain and it can sound a little gimmicky, especially when it's sustained over a really long text. So if we go then into our genres, looking fantasy and sci-fi first, they often juggle between multiple points of view to show different parts of the world in their story. A romance author would usually stick to a dual point of view, head-hopping between one lover and the other love interest to get the readers to understand both sides of the emotional arc. That can be really effective when it's done. Often one chapter from one person, one from another, or within a chapter, quite long paragraphs from one then the other. If you're writing a thriller or a mystery, they often use a limited point of view to maintain the suspense and control information, not give too much away so you get involved in that story and need to read on to find out what happens. So any literary fiction, that's where you'll see experimentation. So shifting points of view, unreliable narrators, even mixing styles. That's something for really experienced authors to have a go at. So when you choose your point of view, consistency is key. Stick with one perspective per scene or per chapter and avoid confusing your reader. Don't mix unless you're going for that experimental literary fiction. Try and stick the whole way through. You're going to write in third person, limited perspective from this character, this character, this character. Don't mix it up and then suddenly go to first person point of view or go to omniscient. It can be really confusing for your reader. So pick your lens carefully, let your characters guide the reader through the story, not the other way around. Hopefully you found that helpful. If you did, drop me a like or hit the subscribe. Thanks for watching.